Living in a society that tells low energy and disabled people they don't deserve nice things really sucks. So I make adaptive recipes. As you can see here, I'm starting the process of making some cranberry orange muffins. And I like to use these Oh Snap cranberry sweeties. So they're dehydrated and rehydrated with sweeter juice. So they're not quite as tart. They behave a little bit differently when you put them in a baked good. But what I'm doing here is I'm actually going to soak these in some orange juice. And as you can see, I have a little cup of orange juice here. I didn't finish all my cups of juice and some of my snacks from my last hospitalization. So this is what I'm doing with the orange. And as you can see, while I was in the hospital hooked up to IVs and stuff, this would have been a lot harder to open, and it's pretty difficult here at home with nothing in my arm. And that's okay. Taking your time is absolutely fine. But we're gonna soak these for a while in some orange juice, give them some extra flavor, rehydrate them just a little bit more so they're nice and juicy. And because I really like muffins, but I don't like having to try and stand around and measure everything, I utilize some hacks. Like, I don't get regular sized oranges like you just saw. I get the little easy peel, wonderful halo type oranges. And when I make muffins, I use cake mix. I don't stand around measuring flour because I physically can't. And to get the oil out of there, I use unsweetened applesauce instead. And instead of water, I'm using some milk for some extra protein. You can really use any dairy or dairy substitute. I do a third of a batch at a time, so it's just one egg, which is good because I'm running low on eggs. And I like to utilize these little decorative sprinkles. My grandmother sent me a bunch of them, so that's nice. And we're going to preheat our little toaster oven here to 375. Make sure it's set to bake. And what you want to do is you want to preheat it while you're mixing everything else so that it's nice and hot when you're ready to go. And you're going to need a mixing bowl. It's pretty low effort, but you do need a couple things. I use these little silicone jumbo muffin molds because I only make 3 at a time. I've got my little oil spritzer here with a neutral flavored oil in it. Yeah, grab my trusty silicone spoonula, which I don't know if you can really see it, but the edges are all chewed up because I always reach for it. And I've got a little slotted spoon to get the cranberries out without getting a bunch of juice in my mix. And we're going to need a third of a cup of that milk. And I'm going to do a little extra step with that measuring cup right there too, which is after we pour the milk, we're going to crack the egg into it, and I'll explain why in just a minute. So there's that third of a cup of milk. And this really doesn't take very long, and it's kind of the perfect way to, you know, really feel like you accomplished something and get a tasty treat at the same time. I mean, if you try and do it the traditional way, you're gonna run out of spoons or spell slots or however it is you think about it before they're finished. And then you don't even want to eat what you made if you get to the stage of actually making the baked good. So here we have our cranberries. They've been soaking for a couple hours at this point. I took a break. That's fine. And we're just going to scoop some out of the juice because we don't want all the extra juice. We just want the flavor. And the important thing to remember when you're working with like any kind of fresh fruit, blueberries, cranberries, what have you, is you don't want them sinking to the bottom of your muffins. And a lot of recipes call for dusting them in plain flour, and that's an extra thing to get out. I just use a little bit of the cake mix. So some of what I was already going to use, I'm going to use to dust these cranberries so they don't all sink to the bottom of the muffins. And I'm eyeballing this, but you can measure it if you want to. If you do this like once or twice a week, like I tend to, because I have these for breakfast, you kind of get a feel. So just go ahead and toss your berries in the mix so they suspend all nice. And then we're going to go ahead and add the rest of the dry. And I like to just kind of mix everything together step by step. It makes incorporating it all together at the end a lot easier. It's a problem I actually have with trying to make like chocolate chip cookies is that the mixture is so thick. I get tired just trying to incorporate it all together. So when I do these muffins, I just kind of do a little bit at a time. There's not a rush here. Go ahead and add your milk. And like I said, just go ahead and mix up your dry mix, your berries, and your milk. Usually after the milk, I would be adding the unsweetened applesauce, where it calls for oil on the box, but I did actually forget until the end. It really doesn't matter what order you add this stuff in, as long as you're pouring the wet into the dry. Otherwise, you're just going to make a mess. Now, what we're doing with the measuring cup and the egg is we're actually going to crack the egg into this measuring cup before putting it in the bowl, just in case there's any shell that gets in there or you get a bad egg for some reason. I've had that happen like twice in my life where I'll get an egg that's just like really weird looking and I don't want to use it. So adding it to a ramekin, or in this case, I was already using this measuring cup, just cracking it into there, you know, saves you having to stir again and just kind of break up the yolk. One thing I like about this recipe is that it's scalable. So if you're like me and you're the only one in your house actually eating muffins, you can just do like 3 at a time very, very easily. Or you can scale it up and make more, you know, if you have a bigger family. you eat more than one muffin a day, which I cannot do. That's just too much muffin for me. And there's that applesauce I had forgotten about, which was significantly easier to open than the orange juice. And we're just going to use a third of that. And like I said, I'm not really measuring because I've done this so many times, but you can go ahead and measure. It's just going to depend on how many you're making. If you would prefer using oil, you know, you do you. This is just how I do things. And you don't want to overwork it, but it's also pre-made mix, so it's a little harder to overmix this than, if you went the traditional route. And to me, this is looking a little wet, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit more of the dry mix to mine. Like I said, you get a feel for it after a while. Your mileage may vary. And now we're in the home stretch here. Got my muffin mold. As you can see, it's very easy to get stuff back out. It sticks less, but it's not perfect. So I just go ahead and hit the bottom and those little corners with a bit of oil. And I stagger mine. I just feel like they bake better this way when you're only doing a partial batch. And go ahead and fill your molds, but not all the way to the top, whatever it is you're using, because these are going to rise a little bit. And you want to make sure that you're getting some berries in each of these. You don't want them to all end up in just one muffin, so I will kind of scoot a couple by themselves. And here we have our filled molds. And at this point, I like to add my decorative sugar. You can add it after if you want to. I just happen to like adding it before. It's a little bit more subtle of a crunch. And they kind of melt a little, and this is just how I choose to do it. And you can skip this step entirely if you want to. It's not necessary. I just have these sprinkles and I like using them. And we're all preheated. And you want to go ahead and make sure your timer is set correctly. So for these 3 jumbo muffins, I usually do about 26-ish minutes. Sometimes they'll take a little bit longer. It really depends on the wetness of the fruit you're using, if you're using any fruit. Please excuse the state of my toaster oven. It is really old and we don't have a regular oven, so this one sees a lot of use. Now we can take a nice break, have a delicious beverage, watch a little something, and when the timer goes off, you're going to want to let this cool for a little while. Obviously, I let mine cool for quite a while because I fell asleep. I was pretty tired after making these. Which should tell you that even if you're really low energy, you can still manage this. Well, Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I was having a very low energy day. And as you can see, these will pop right out. Just gonna adjust my camera here so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And I'm just gonna pop one of these out for right now for my breakfast. Sure, you can tell by the lighting I started when it was still dark out. I fell asleep while these were cooling, and now they are all nice and cool, ready to eat, completely set up. And there you have your muffin. And do a quick vanity shot here for you guys. There we are. Still had some cranberries, a bit of orange, and my absolutely adorable plate with strawberries on it that I love. And this just goes to show that you can be lower energy and still be able to make nice things for yourself because you deserve it. And I hope you make some delicious muffins for yourself the next time you have the energy to do so.